On a chilly evening in March 1854, a group of men broke into a construction site in Washington, D.C. Their goal? A single stone that they were convinced was part of a plot to take over the country. Their covert actions that night would have repercussions lasting for decades. The stone came from the Washington Monument. More than 500 feet high, towering over America's capital, the Washington Monument has its share of dark secrets. And it took over 100 years and some serious battles to even get it built.
The idea for a monument to George Washington is as old as the city itself.
In fact, planning for a memorial began in 1783 at the end of the Revolutionary War, when Washington was still very much alive. The initial proposal was simple: a statue of the great man on his horse. But that didn't seem to be enough for the icon who'd become the father of his country.
There were many opponents to the idea. A lot of people thought that no monument on earth could possibly honor Washington as much as he deserved to be honored.
This must be the largest monument in the world, simply because George Washington is the greatest man who'd ever lived.
Finally, in 1836, the Washington National Monument Society held a competition to design the perfect memorial. This design was the clear winner.
Robert Mills, the architect, presented a design that could come in small, medium, large, or gigantic. And they chose gigantic.
Washington would be commemorated with a towering obelisk, a structure whose roots stretch back to ancient Egypt.
From this vantage point, it looks more or less like a needle sticking up out of the ground. But the Egyptians, an obelisk was a ray of light, frozen.
In Egypt, obelisks stood at the entrance of mighty burial temples as a tribute to the sun god Ra.
To the ancient Egyptians, the sun was a powerful deity, the source of life and death.
Construction on the monument began in 1848, and though the design was a success, the fundraising wasn't. So the Monument Society actually ended up filling the monument with stones that were donated from all over the world. Nearly 200 of these stones were used, hidden away deep inside the obelisk's interior. One stone in particular caused international outrage. The Vatican sent a slab of marble like this one from the Temple of Concordia in Rome to Washington, D.C., engraved with the Latin, "From Rome to America." A political party called the Know-Nothings insisted a conspiracy was afoot. One key part of the Know-Nothings platform: they hated Catholics. They were sure the growing Irish Catholic immigrant population was going to take over the nation. On the evening of March 5, 1854, a group of Know-Nothings broke into the grounds of the Washington Monument. They stole the Pope's stone and, according to legend, dumped it in the Potomac River. The Know-Nothings then managed to get their names on the rolls of the Washington Monument Society. They held an illegitimate election and voted themselves in.
The scandal of all this brought it to a great halt. No one was willing to give money anymore, and so it sat, a bleeding stump.
After the Civil War erupted in 1861, the monument's grounds were used as a cattle pen to provide beef for Union troops. Years after the war ended, the landmark was still only half completed.
In many ways, it was a national embarrassment. This stump of an incomplete monument stood on the mall as sort of a monument to American inactivity, an inability to build the primary symbol of its founder, George Washington.
In the early 1870s, with the monument still unfinished, the Army Corps of Engineers made a surprising move. They buried a secret underneath it. It's about half the diameter of these flags circling the memorial today.
What's buried underneath that great mound of earth surrounding the monument is a concrete pyramid that was put in, and it's only known through great photographs.
But why was a pyramid hidden below the base? It wasn't just about engineering. It was also about politics. The engineer who was hired to assess the unfinished monument said the soil would definitely support the weight of the massive stone obelisk. Problem was, the engineer was a former Confederate colonel. The Corps of Engineers was dominated by Yankees, and in the days after the Civil War, any Confederate was considered untrustworthy. The Corps threw out the Southerners' study. Instead, they created a pyramid of concrete beneath the monument to make sure it was stable. And in 1876, Congress finally agreed to finish what had become a national disgrace. When it was finished at last in 1884, the monument topped out at 555 feet.
The Washington Monument was the tallest structure in the United States, and even today it is the tallest pure masonry structure in the world.
And though the monument was done, its secret life was far from over. The Washington Monument may just have a hidden meaning involving the fraternal society known as the Freemasons. Its origins are obscure, but by the 19th century, the group had thousands of members around the world. Freemasons have had plenty of powerful members, including Washington himself. Their ceremonies and rituals are kept hidden from the public. In America, secret societies have always been fodder for theories about dark conspiracies. By the time the Washington Monument was under construction, anti-Mason sentiment ran so high that an actual political party, the Anti-Masonic Party, was created to oppose the Masons.
Here was a group of people who didn't seem to be playing by the rules, whose activities as Masons weren't open to the light of day.
What does this have to do with the Washington Monument? Plenty, at least according to conspiracy theorists. First of all, dozens of the stones donated to build the monument came from Masons. Plus, George Washington, as well as the memorial's architect, were Masons. And its height, 555 feet, has a special meaning in Freemasonry.
It is approximately 555 feet in elevation, and the base is 55 feet by 55, so it's all fives. And why?
So does this really mean that the Washington Monument is a giant symbol of the Masons' secret power?
In Masonry, number 5 refers to the builder. So it makes sense. Washington, again, is a builder of a new nation. It doesn't mean that those guys conspired, to do that.
Maybe not. But what about the monument's location? For years, conspiracy theorists have found secret meanings in Washington's street plan, like the upside-down pentagram that supposedly points to the White House. As for the Washington Monument, the White House looks south to the monument, the Capitol directly west. The conspiracy theory? Both the President and Congress must be forced to look upon the true power in America, the Masons. And even worse, if you join the Masons' House of the Temple, the Washington Monument, and the Capitol, you get an L, the exact shape of a key Masonic symbol, the L-shaped architect square. The L shape? Indisputable. The conspiracy theory? Up to you. But whether it's rich with secret meanings or simply a graceful tribute, when it comes to American monuments, Washington's towers above them all.